My name is Hannah Bagdasar, and I'm a digital investigations and accountability consultant.
Hannah, what role can open source information play in international criminal proceedings?
Open source information is a great tool because it can allow us to have access to places that we might not typically have access to. And so in that respect, it really gives us another avenue for evidence. So it can serve as a corroboration for a witness testimony or another form of documentation, but it can also serve as direct evidence, as linkage evidence, and many more, so long as it's been verified in the proper way.
And how important do you think these modern forms of evidence will be in accountability processes going forward?
I think it's only going to get more important. We've already seen since even 2011 the rise of the use of social media by people around the world, and that's allowed us to have access to places that we wouldn't traditionally have been able to access, especially in justice contexts. And so I think as more and more people are becoming interconnected via the internet, social media, even just having smartphones, the more information is going to be out there. And then in turn, that can then turn into evidence and use in international proceedings.
And so what are some of the main challenges in using open source information as evidence in court?
I mean, there's so many challenges. Just like any other form of evidence, it needs to meet the same standards. But the additional challenge that open source faces is that usually we don't know who the source is. So it has to undergo an additional verification process that you might not have to do if you use just CCTV, for example. And so that will be questioned, that will be probed. In addition, there needs to be a robust documentation process. So how you really got from A to Z, showing all the steps. Another thing is going to be preservation and collection of material. So are you collecting the online material in a way that can stand up to the same sort of chain of custody things that we'll need in traditional cases? And just an overall methodology that we need to follow and make sure it's in alignment with what we're actually doing.
And so what are some of the techniques currently being employed to combat deepfakes and AI-generated content?
So the same techniques we would use to verify the authenticity of a regular photo or video is used on these deepfakes, to combat deepfakes. So doing a robust verification process, really looking for, can I identify this location on a map? Can I figure out what time it is? Doing a source analysis of who posted it, all the things that we're already doing, but then just with more skepticism than I think we might have initially gone into this. I do think that most open source investigators are quite skeptical. That's what we're taught at the beginning, to never trust anything you find on the internet. And I think having that as a baseline allows us to already combat the deep fakes and other manipulative content that comes out there.
Finally, can you describe the importance of open source information, particularly in contexts of ongoing conflict, where investigators may not have access to the country?
Yeah, I think now more than ever, we're seeing wars play out on social media. And so if you can't get access to a region, you might be able to do so via social media, seeing what the people are experiencing as they experience it. I think that's really unique compared to traditional forms of investigation where we would have to wait until after something has already happened in order to go in there and really document what happened. And so this presents many challenges because we need to figure out how to organize this data, how we can figure out what needs to be weighed where, how do we narrow down from the vast amount of information what's really going to be useful to case building, and then really just go from there in terms of how do we make the next step. But the possibility to have access to this is unlike anything we've seen before, and so it will continue to be used. It's also low resource. You don't need to send a full team to another country. You can do it remotely, which I think is really going to be important as we see an increase of these situations going on.
Hannah Bagdasar, thank you very much.
Thank you.